brilliant. Two. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we're almost all back in from our breakout rooms. That's fantastic. Oh, let's see. That's everybody. I think that might be everybody back in. So hopefully you learned some exciting things about other members of the group, and it will inspire you to come and converse in the Facebook group as well, which is really important. We want to make that an active community where we can really support our learning and discussion and kind of expand on whatever the book is that we're reading at the time. And obviously at the moment we're just launching with Lolita's lovely memoir. So we thought that while we're waiting on Lolita to join us, she is hopefully going to be with us in the next few minutes, that I would just do a little introduction to me. Sarah might have something else to add. We're blessed today to have one or two other disciples here who we will invite to introduce themselves as well. I can't see Nicole on the screen, but Nicole, I know you're here, so maybe you can jump up in a moment and introduce yourself if you feel so inclined. So I was really blessed to host Lolita in Leeds 12 years ago now, which is phenomenal to think. And when she came to Leeds and I met her for the first time, I absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that she would be in my life forever. And the inspiring way that she taught and she shared a belief system, not just a movement system, was what really resonated with me. And so I followed what she was doing and kept my eye on what she was doing. And then when I was looking for a mentor, she was the absolute obvious choice. And her relationship with Polestar, who I'm also an educator for, it just made so much sense to me to go and seek out Lolita. And I certainly don't regret it. And it was such a great opportunity because I made lifelong friends, Sarah being one and Amber being another. And Amber is just a ray of light always. And she's got the sunshine, blue sky, and trees behind her today. And I'm sitting in Leeds in the rain, like cold. We had snow in May, like sleet and snow. It was the most ridiculous thing the other day. But anyway, that is, the United Kingdom. We get all the seasons in a short space of time. So yeah, so I guess that's a little bit about me and how I met Sarah and how I met Lolita and Amber. And hopefully Amber's going to introduce herself as well, so you can get a sense of the family that Lolita's family, really.
Well, I would love to introduce myself. Hi, guys. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. This has never happened like this before. We are working on a different solution to get Lolita's on this call. And I know she is just beside herself that she's not here with you guys. Oh, I'm so sorry and everything else. But my name's Amber Butler. I live in Spokane, Washington, and in the United States, in case that wasn't clear. I had the privilege of starting to work with Lolita in 2009 when I joined her third master mentoring program. So I was in group C and I completed with group A. So we are on double, I don't know, L again now. So it's been a while, let's just say that. But what I love I love all the things that Claire and Sarah have said about it. The community is amazing, but the work is timeless. And it just continues to service so many bodies. And it's not like we don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. And it's not, I mean, yes, we can get creative in our work with different things, but at the same time, if we just go back to the basics and go back to the basic of Lolita's work, it can take a practice, it can take a studio, it can take a business, you know, into profit and beyond. And we'll just say it in money. I never talk of Pilates in money, but my husband wishes I would. Anyways, let me see what else. I am a mom. I have 3 kids, I have a 32-year-old, a 26-year-old, and a 21-year-old. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson and a 3.5-month-old granddaughter. And then I have 2 twin girls on their way in August. So with Lolita daily now, it used to be I had to fly to Lolita like 4 times a year to assist her with the mentoring program. The blessing of COVID is I get to be with her every day online. And on top of that, I run a business and have a full family. So that's me. I'm an open book. So if you wanted to know anything, you can ask, but I'll stop just rambling.
Thank you, Amber. That was fantastic. I appreciate you introducing yourself and your connection with Lolita. And I think it's really amazing how in our community, there's so many of us who have seen blessings out of this hideous. We can't knock that this is a hideous, hideous situation that we've been in. However, there are many things that we've been able to do that we may not have been able to do. And you know, like I said at the beginning, Lolita converted herself onto an online platform, which is just amazing. So people who wouldn't have been able to do class with Lolita can do class. Like anybody anywhere can do class with Lolita. That's like a mind-blowing idea when I think of about squeezing all these people in real life into studio in the center of Leeds and it being this sort of holy grail moment. We get to do class with Lolita and now anybody can from anywhere. It's just a phenomenal experience. And I was just going to add to something that Amber said that I've been thinking about a lot this week about the practice of Pilates and Lolita's real belief. One of the things that she taught me the first time that she came to Leeds was that she got up and did the practice every day. She did the mat work every single day. So I had to find a hotel room for her to stay in that was going to accommodate her mat and space for her to do that every day. Every day, she said she had done that since the day that she met Joseph Pilates, and that has stuck with me. And it is a practice, and the beginning work is always the work. Like a master black belt in whatever martial art, they do the same sequence forever. They just hone that skill, they get deeper, they feel it, they're just going deeper into the work. It doesn't change, but they do. And yeah, I just something that I've been thinking about. And somebody said suggested that I talked a little bit about the master mentorship, because I know, you know, I'm sure Sarah would like to say a little bit about that also. Because that's the piece where we got to go and spend a year back and forth going to Florida and being in real life with Lolita and Amber and Danielle and many others. And the time was not just about the movement, the time was about us having time out. So I run a studio, I have 3 kids, I have a busy life, but this time was about me. It was dead selfish. It was all about me. It was the time that I needed to nourish my soul, nourish my body, nourish my mind, and it really gave me that. It also gave challenge. Like Lolita is amazing at challenging you and helping you to push yourself to the next level, whether it's, you know, holding your teaser longer or whether it's doing more research on the thing that you're really passionate about. She just has a way of making you get there. And I am forever grateful for that. Maybe Sarah has something to add about the mentorship. Okay.
Yes, 100% what Claire just said. It was a very transformative time in all of our lives, probably for everyone who has been through her program. If you get to a point when you've been teaching for 20 years, like I have been, where you want more, and you want to go deeper and you want to expand and grow yourself in your practice as well as a human being. And that's what Lolita does for us. is that she sees you when you spend time with her. And welcome, Lolita. When you spend time with her, she invites you into her life in a way that you don't know until you're in it. And she welcomes you wholeheartedly in all of who you are. And she has this amazing gift of just being able to almost look inside your soul and see where it is, where you need to grow physically, spiritually, mentally. And she drags it out of you amazingly, beautifully, moments of perhaps a little discomfort in there. And that's what we have to go through in order to change, right? Is we have to push ourselves, we have to overload ourselves. And that's what Lolita does. And one of the most beautiful things that that helped create the community that Lolita built among us was that she invited us all at the beginning of the training to sit down at a table with her. And so that is the amazing experience that you will have today, is that we sat down at a table with her and she opened up and shared who she was, and we had an opportunity to share who we were. And so unfortunately, she wasn't able to be in the breakout rooms with you to get to know you, but she will get to know you in our Facebook group, because she will be joining us in our Facebook group as well as we go along this journey in her book. And so lastly, I just want to say she's just the most phenomenal mentor. As you have heard from both Claire, myself, and from Amber, she is full of energy and vitality. She would teach, well, we would have 6-hour days, which would become 8-hour days. And she would invite us again to the table. We had dinner with her, we spoke with her, got to know her stories, not just the technicalities and history of Pilates, but really building a family. And so I am really so excited to share Lolita with you today so that you can hear directly from her. Lolita, we would love to invite you online now to please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Welcome, Lolita. It's lovely to have you.
I am so happy to see you all. I have spent the last, I would say, hour and a half pulling my hair and running, walking up and down and praying, come on, because I knew all of you were waiting, and I had 3 experts, Amber, Danielle, and my husband, working on it. And it's the first time that it didn't happen. And I kept looking at the clock every moment. But I am delighted. I thank you for being so patient. I really am. I'm impressed. I would have left if I'd been you. Truly, I would have said, the hell with this, if they can't get their act together. So I really thank you for being so patient and persevering. So I guess that's why you are in Pilates, because we have to be patient and perseverant. You know that Danielle got into her car and she came running over here, and I wasn't expecting her. She didn't tell me she was coming. And I hear my doorbell ring and I say to it, don't answer it. So he goes and he answers it. And there's Danielle barefoot running up the stairs with her pad. And that's what we're on right now. She's trying to get the program on my pad. At any rate, I mean, I'm delighted to be here after this journey, but it is perseverance that has done this. Okay, and at the same time, I'm very surprised to see many faces that I know very well. And go away, you my echo. And I didn't expect to see. I'm being changed.
Here we go.
Ah, this one goes down in history. Here,
There we go.
I don't think she has sound. You have sound?
Can you hear her? Okay.
She can.
She's on her own computer now, everybody. We did it.
You're an amazing woman.
So you just need to spotlight this new picture.
New picture.
Yeah. You can, there we go. There you go. Go ahead, Lolita, you're on. Woohoo!
Well, have you had dinner? I hope so. So there are others in this group that I know. They're my people, and Lolita Pilates goes on Zoom, goes online, and they're still plugging me in. Okay, so let's get down to the business of books. All right, and I, number one, congratulate you on having a book club, because if Sarah had told me before when we met, I didn't remember that you had a book club. And all of a sudden, when someone reminded me, it was a surprise. It was a delightful surprise. And I then, the girls, Danielle and Amber, started to get in touch with Sarah, and we got more information. And so here we are. Well, where should I start? I know you sent me some questions, but in this crazy runaround, I don't know where I put them. So why don't
Lolita, we created book club, Sarah and I, when we met with you in Florida.
But did you let me know? I didn't even know that you maintained your relationship that close with Sarah.
Oh yes, we're kindred spirits. We felt, you know, love of books. We share that love of books. So yes.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I'm delighted when you bond like that, because that's one of the purposes of keeping a small group very close to you and very close to each other, and have them come several times and have them communicate through the many, many means that there are today, that these relationships come about. So who's going to be asking me questions, you or Sarah?
I will begin. We wondered if you would like to read a passage from the book.
Well, Sarah asked me, and I said,
I picked one.
Good, I'll read anything.
I picked one.
Is it a naughty passage?
No, I'm just so excited. I would like you to read the Pilates Life chapter.
The what? Just give me page.
116.
One, 8, 1, 1, 6, 1, 1, 6. In 1992, Claire? Besides
116, when I moved to Puerto Rico.
The what?
It's the chapter entitled The Pilates Life, when I moved to Puerto Rico. 116, 116.
Okay. When I moved to Puerto Rico, Kathy Grant remained my northern link to the Pilates method. She was proud of my accomplishments with Ballet Concierto and would reschedule her classes and travel several hours to come see the company. Whether we performed at the Joyce Theater, the Lincoln Center outdoor concerts, Ostos College, or other venues, Kathy would be there. We often discussed our disappointment over what was happening to the method. The Pilates Guild, run by Romana Krisanovska and Shan Gallagher, had been tightening the screws on many studios and instructors, either forcing them to stop teaching, pay royalties, or take a course to become Guild approved. That's by them. Neither Kathy nor I had been contacted. In fact, Romana had often referred her clients to me while they were vacationing in Puerto Rico. We were sure Romana would intervene on our behalf if her associate, Shan Gallagher, ever considered going after us. I was shocked when Kathy called to tell me that Deborah Lesson, a longtime assistant of Carola Trier, was being sued by the Pilates Guild, along with a Sacramento-based maker of Pilates equipment called Balance Body, owned by Ken Endelman. Then I was contacted by a New York attorney asking if I would provide a deposition about my relationship with the Pilates method. Coincidentally, Ballet Concierto was performing in New York at the time of the trial, and I met Ken Endelman in the courtroom. Fortunately, the court decided that the Pilates method should be considered generic, which freed everyone from the Guild's grip. Kathy and I were delighted that the method could now blossom. Perhaps Joe's dream that the whole world would practice his method might yet become a reality. Want me to go on? Oh, we want to talk about that, or?
You
Tell
can
me.
carry on. We could listen to you all day, Lolita.
Okay, well, in 2001, I was invited to attend a meeting of Pilates teachers in Miami. 4 people who had studied with Joe Pilates were the special guests: Mary Bowen, Ron Fletcher, Kathy Grant, and me. In addition to the hosts, Kevin Bowen and Colleen Glenn, about 100 members of the community of the Pilates community participated. I met Brent Anderson, who greeted me with a bear hug. He spoke to me in Spanish, saying he knew all about me because his wife was Puerto Rican. I was also introduced to Rayla Sakowitz, who had heard about me from Kathy Grant. We accomplished a lot during the weekend in Miami. Our main objective was the same as Romana's: to preserve the method's integrity. Mary, Ron, Kathy, and I were named Pilates elders, having been clients of Joseph Pilates, or in Kathy's and my case, certified by him. We each spoke about our experiences with Joe and voiced our support for the creation of an alliance to maintain fidelity to the method. Kathy and I made a small contribution to purchase stationery and supplies. Kevin offered his studio as an office. And we named our new association the Pilates Method Alliance. Well, this was really quite a gathering, because we were only like 100, but when I look at the footage that we have from that meeting, there was, besides the people I mentioned, Elizabeth Larkham was there, the Merriweathers from Canada, they were there. Uh, well, Ron Fletcher, of course, was alive at that time, so he had some other of his teachers there. Uh, there were quite a few of the more or less gang now, or that were there, but and there were others that were clients. So and everybody, they didn't know me. Remember, I had been away for 26 years, and uh, but I was with Kathy, and then they took it for granted that who I was, and it was great fun. And I went up to Kenny Endelman, and I said, Ken, I would like to study with somebody who has manuals and who has other information, because let's face it, he died in 1967. And this was the year 2001 or 2002. So that's quite a long time. So he said, well, I really cannot. It wouldn't be ethical for me to recommend anybody. So I insisted, and so he said, well, you're probably looking for somebody classical. And I said, no, that's exactly what I'm not looking for, because I was there his last year and a half of life, so I don't need classical. What is classical anyway? What does that mean? He never used that word. So I said, I would really like the cutting edge, because I felt very inadequate in a way when I heard about how little that Pilates had moved on, because I had never heard about or told how to adjust Pilates for people with osteoporosis. I had never heard for a long time about osteoporosis or spondylolisthesis or stenosis, and I didn't know what that was. And I felt like, oh my God, I could be hurting somebody. Thank God that I was working really with dancers, and they were healthy people. But I felt this vacuum. So I said, no, I want the cutting edge. I want, what's happening now. I don't have a piece of paper. I don't have one single piece of paper or video or anything. We didn't take pictures back then. We didn't. It was impolite. So from Corolla Trier, where I assisted for 7 years and became her apprentice, or from Joe and Clara. And neither did Kathy. We didn't, there was no such thing as a training manual. So then he looked at me and he said, well, why don't you go to that gentleman over there and talk to him? So he pointed me in the direction of the big bear that had hugged me when I walked in. And so I went to him, and I started to question him, and he felt more comfortable too, because he knew when he hugged me, I had no idea who he was. And so I talked him into coming to Puerto Rico, and I would host him, and he would present the Polestar, all of it, to myself and my faculty. So that I remember meeting Mary Bowen, who was and still is a character. If you haven't met her, I hope you will have a chance to meet her. And right now, there's only the two of us left. And I remember meeting Rael and so many. And it was amazing because the four of us had all our expenses paid. we didn't know anything other than we were invited. And I realized later that Kevin and Colleen must have been footing the bill for these expenses. I stayed with friends, but others stayed in the hotel. And we walked out of there feeling so good because it was like the method is going to live. The method will go on, because the only thing that there was to tell us that the method is still alive was Mary Windsor, who passed last year. Mary had a program on television for body conditioning with Pilates, but it was a daytime program, and I didn't watch daytime television. But one day I was looking, and all of a sudden I see this program, very well done, and this woman whom I've never seen, and it felt wonderful, because any little sign that the method was going to continue, because nobody spoke of it, nobody, and it really, and I happened to have had such a powerful impact from Joe himself when I was doing my apprenticeship. And it was when he was having one of what we call bad days. And he came into the studio and he sat down and stared at the floor. And he didn't correct anybody. He did not say a word. And of course, the clients get curious. So one went by and said, "Come on, Joe, how come you're so quiet today?" So he responded and he said, "Well, I don't have much time left. And I have not accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with the method." And he said, my goal was that the whole world should do Pilates. My goal was that have children using our method, to really have that the method would be used for helping the whole world. He said it would be a much better world. And he did say then, and I am 50 years ahead of my time. He never for one moment doubted the method. He never did. But he realized that he was ahead of his time. So that I was, just listening to this, and I felt so badly for him, because I loved the method, and I realized that, our studio was half empty. They didn't have any money, and he was getting very ill at the time. His lungs had been compromised for a very long time. He was a very heavy smoker. And to have him realize that he didn't have much time, and that this feeling of regret that he had not accomplished what he wished. So that really impacted me. And I thought to myself, it must be very sad when once you've worked so hard to, like he has, to develop this method, to feel that way in your last years. So when I went to Mönchengladbach, and I went to Mönchengladbach at the invitation of a lady who I just started a year or so, the Pilates Master Mentor program. And she called me and said, why don't you come? I cannot go to Florida, but could you come here and I'll prepare a group for you? And I said, well, where do you live? She said, I live in Dusseldorf. I said, oh, and how far away are you from Mönchengladbach? And she said, oh, only 20 minutes by car. I said, go. I'll go as long as we can celebrate in Mönchengladbach Pilates Day. And that was the only thing I was thinking, celebrate Pilates Day in Mönchengladbach. So long story short, we went, I taught a class, there were over 100 people in the class. I afterwards asked them to come speak to me. Claudia, the lady that had called me, was translating. And all of a sudden I started to talk about Joe Pilates, and I might as well have been talking about the moon, because they all looked at me with blank faces. And I realized they didn't know. And Claudia translated to me. She said, they don't know who Joe Pilates is. I mean, I had walked around his little town to the different homes because they moved a lot, where he had lived, 12 of them. I had seen the place where he was born. I had gone to City Hall, where I was surprised because there were only like 2 little pages on him. And one of them said his occupation was brewer. And I said, hello, his occupation was hardly that. He said, yes, we're getting now a lot of inquiries about him. This was the librarian, very nice man. And I said, well, he's very well known outside of his hometown. So that's when I decided, and the thing that was in my mind, that was that picture of him sitting on that chair, staring at the floor, saying those words, and how sad I felt to think, my God, at that age, must be a terrible thing to feel that you have not accomplished what you have worked so hard. And he said, I have worked very hard. I have gone to President Kennedy. I have gone to Macy's to try to sell. I've gone to them, my idea, my equipment, small apparatus. I have gone to the Board of Education, but they don't seem interested. I'm 50 years ahead of my time. So now I'm glad to say tomorrow I will be on a broadcast coming from Mönchengladbach, obviously virtual, with Kathy Corey. I passed the baton to Kathy a few years ago, and the mayor of the town, who, by the way, back then, when I was struggling to get that plaque up, was not him though, but the one that was not a cooperative. And but now they realize how much money we bring into them when we come to town, and how busy the place gets. And so tomorrow we will be at the plaque, and we will be virtually celebrating. Kathy will be there, and the mayor, and the other brass, I guess. And we will be celebrating Pilates Day in Mönchengladbach, even though we cannot be there yet. But reservations have already been made, and the hotels and the venue have been reserved for next year. So we will be there. I hope to be with you next year. And so this meeting was really conducive to all of this. And so I was fortunate because I had nobody but Brent come to train us. Brent and Shelley Powers, who is a wonderful teacher. And so myself and the others, and of course, I was constantly looking at what he was doing, and I would say, but you get that from. And I said, I never saw the 100 done like this, with the palms up and the palms down. And he looked at me and he said, really? And well, what's wrong? I said, it's only supposed to be palms down. Who told you about palms up? So he said, well, my teacher, and I won't say who the teacher was. And then I would look at something else and I'd say, and what's that? and but all in all, I truly learned what I wanted to learn from him and from Polsta and from the fact that we became good friends. So anytime I had a question and if I was not well, his wonderful hands were there to try to fix me up, and he did. And so I've been truly fortunate to have this gamut of teachers, because one of the people that I learned a lot from was a gentleman called Bob Seed, who was at Joe's. And he was so wonderful, and he was communicative, because Joe wasn't. And neither was Clara. I mean, Clara, I guess, felt that she did not speak English as well as Joe, which she didn't. But she was still very communicative and so tactile that you always got her message and what she wanted you to do, whether she wanted you to lower the sternum or she wanted you to lift up. She could get her message across with no problem, but she was shy about speaking too much. And at the same time, remember, for her, he was like the sun, you know, and she adored him. And she knew his work upside down. And it was amazing how she could translate it to you. But the amazing thing was that I keep asking around, nobody ever saw her on an apparatus or a mat working out. But yet she knew the fine points and she could communicate them very well. And isn't that amazing? Because I'm a firm believer that you have to put it in your body before you can teach it. You really have to feel it and integrate it before you can project it and before you can really teach it. So I guess when they first met, he must have trained her then, because I've gone back to people who studied with him in the 40s, and they tell me the same thing. They never saw her work out or get on the apparatus to demonstrate a movement. And let's face it, if you don't know what you're going to do, you need somebody to demonstrate it. But she would manage just beautifully, and she was a lovely lady. And so she and Bob Seed and Joe himself, because when Joe was feeling well, he was very energetic and he was very gung-ho. He never, he never stood by anybody. He didn't really like giving privates, except he had to people who, needed it, who'd had bad injuries and things. But other than that, his aim was to get you into the big studio, because he would just pass by you and say, add a spring or do this or do that. And I used to follow him like a shadow, because I had to hear what he was saying to people. And I had been trained as a dancer. We didn't have manuals back then either. We didn't have videos. We didn't have any of those things that you all enjoy now. So I had to really listen, look where he placed his hands, and remember, because that was going to be my manual. And I thank goodness that I have a good memory. And I guess that also I credit dance with, because it was the same in dance. You had to learn all the choreography. You didn't have anything written down. So you had to look and listen and remember. So that helped me immensely with them, because no matter how much I tried to get him to explain details, he was good. It's good for the body. I mean, what's wrong with you? It's good for the body, which was frustrating. So let's see. What else, Sarah? Another part you want me to read?
All right.
There's another section before questions. If you could read the last paragraph on page 122.
Okay,
122.
the last. Joseph Pilates did not seek a cult of followers that would dogmatically adhere to his word. Rather, he was a man who constantly pursued greater knowledge, who used his observances and intuition to modify and tweak his theories, exercises, and apparatus. I don't think he would expect anything less from those who have continued promoting his method. My motto, which I recommend to my students, is preserve and evolve. No one knows everything, so we should never stop searching, learning, growing, and evolving. And that is so true. Oh, and that's one of the beauties of what is happening now, because I think we are open and we keep opening more and more. And even though it's been a struggle, I won't say it's been easy, it's been a struggle, but we are opening and we are more receptive to new ideas. Well, my goodness, why not? You don't have to accept everything you hear, right? No. Some you accept, some you say, oh, that's interesting, and you don't accept. So I don't, to me, he has never been like a cult figure. I think he was wonderful. I loved him. I've done everything I could to promote him, not only Mönchengladbach. On the odd years, I started on May 9th, also on May 2nd, a get together, and we go to Ferncliff Cemetery, where his ashes are. His ashes and Clara's ashes are there. Joe was a Mason, and when he died, the Masonic Society, which is very united with its members, and it's a very secret cult, and they don't talk much about themselves at all. It's very hard to pull anything out of them. But they had taken over, taken the body, cremated it, and placed his ashes there. Did the same thing 10 years later with Clara. And isn't that interesting that Clara lasted 10 more years after Joe, even though they were the same age, with just a few. But of course, it was his smoking. You know, he died of emphysema. And he did smoke endlessly. And arthritis also, but arthritis doesn't kill you, I don't think. Certainly the lungs. And even though he would stand in front of an open window, summer and winter, and just breathe, and you would see that cavity all around grow. And you know how he had that barrel chest? And if you looked at it from the back, it looked like the barrel continued. And he was a powerful breather. So you think, how could he develop emphysema and asthma, which he also had most of his life? But other than that, I never heard him say, I never heard he had a cold. I never heard he took an aspirin. No, never. And he used to run around the block in his little shorts and turtleneck in winter. So it goes to show you. And towards the end, really, the studio was doing very poorly, very, very poorly. And a group of gentlemen and clients and students of his had to really maintain an eye and a financial help for Clara after he was gone. And I remember that her most treasured possession was a comforter, a plume, duck comforter, or a goose. I don't know what kind of feathers it had in it, that she had brought with her from Mönchengladbach. Clara never returned. He went back several times for a short time, but Clara never returned. And at the same time, it's an intriguing fact that we hear how they met on this boat, right? But yet, how come he bought 2 tickets? Oh, he bought 2 tickets for the boat that brought them. So somehow I think they must have known each other in Mönchengladbach. She was from an adjoining town, and he was pretty active always. And he loved the ladies. There's no denying it. You know, we cannot deny it. He loved the ladies like he loved his beer and vodka, whatever it was that he drank, and his cigar. And he loved to have a good time. So what else? What did you like me to? Did you say something, Claire?
Sarah's got a question for you now.
Yes, we'd love to jump into our questions for you, Lolita. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. I love hearing it directly from you. So, you know, Joe left this amazing legacy for us, and you have and continue to build an amazing legacy. And so I know why I want others to hear your story, but I'm also curious what inspired you to decide to write your memoir.
Mm-hmm. Well, over the years, I realized that once, you know, my getting into dance was in itself so difficult decision for me, of whether to choose dance or whether to become a criminal lawyer and get the bad people. And then my professional career was exceptional. And let's face it, we're talking the city of New York, where there are always have been tons of dancers. And maybe there were not quite as many then, but there were very fewer jobs too. So there was always that surplus. And then when I felt that I've had enough of dancing and I want to change, and I start teaching, and I think Pilates probably made me think of that because when I learned Pilates, I realized watching my colleagues in dance how many things they were doing that were harmful to them. And so I think that was one of the things that pushed me into teaching, and I enjoyed it thoroughly once I started. Then when I went to Puerto Rico, I didn't think I would. I thought, if anything, I would start a Pilates studio. And I introduced Pilates to Puerto Rico. Nobody had heard of it. I was the only person who taught it. And so then I was asked to start a ballet company. And that is a very challenging proposition because, number one, Puerto Rico is a very poor island. Uh, there are many things that you can contribute to that are very worthwhile, mostly illnesses and ways of improving some important things and research and so on. And but we plugged ahead. They said to me, "Oh, forget it. It'll never be a profession here because once the kids get to be a certain age, they go to college, they meet somebody, and they get married, and that's the end of that. And you'll have them till they're 17 or 18." So that led into that. And I never planned anything really in advance. It happened. And I've always called it, I'm in divine order, whatever, you know, I, you'll show me the way. And it happens. And then I didn't resign from Ballet Concierto till I was 70. So I was pretty tired of running a ballet company by then. And by that time, there was the big boom of Pilates, right? So it was the year 2005 when I retired. So I had started to travel with Pilates, and there was such eagerness from wherever I went. There was this thirst, for tell us about him, tell me more. And what about this? And what about that? And they felt like I had felt. Whys, the whys. They always wanted to know how this and why that. And that was very motivating because I realized they were feeling the same way I had been feeling, always wanting to know, the root cause of things, why. And so that was very, very motivating. And it's funny because, they always say to the dancers, you shouldn't choose dance because you're not going to make a living at it. That's nonsense. That is nonsense. You're going to have to work very hard all your life. Yes. But you can make a living at it. And you can also, and I implore the young dancers, study Pilates. It is your tool to fall back on if you are in between contracts, if you are summer, it gets low. It is a tool that you will always have and that it'll always be wanted, that you'll always be able to help people with. So, and it gives you a great sense of security because when other dancers have to look for a job in dancing, which is not easy, whether it be dancing or teaching, and very often they go to teach without love of teaching dance. But since that's what I learned, that's what I can teach. But like Pilates, it really requires you to love it. It really requires you to sacrifice a great deal because it's hard. It's very hard. So my enchanted life is when I looked upon it. Well, number one, the Puerto Rico is called the Island of Enchantment. That's its nickname, the Island of Enchantment. So I guess that contributed to my naming it, the book Enchantment, because even though I was born in New York and I love going to New York, I'm a New Yorker, I am also, when I arrive in Puerto Rico, I'm home too. So it's wonderful because I have accepted, and I credit my parents with that. They trained me. They from a little one. They instilled that I had to be bilingual, that I had to be professional. I had to be bilingual. I could not depend on men to support me. I had to do it myself always, and I had to maintain my brain active, and I had to be independent. And to me, that was for granted. I took it for granted. I thought all parents do that. No, but I found out that unfortunately, so many young people do not have support from their parents. And if you don't have support from your parents, you feel pretty lost. You are pretty lost. Because who you going to look up to? And so often you look up to someone who is not healthy for you or who is not good for you and who can destroy you. And you feel, well, I have nowhere to go. No, no. You don't want that. You want to be able to say, I love you, dear, but like Tina Turner says, and what does love have to do with it? Yes, you want to be respected. You have earned it, and you deserve it. I really love to give to ladies that feeling of, yes, you can. There's nothing you cannot do. And you're not second class. No, you are not second class. You're up there the same way. And I know Barack Obama once said he thought that if the world was run by the women, it would be better off. And I think there's something to that. So that's where the enchantment came in. Another question. Oh, come on.
Had some really nice follow-up questions in the chat as well. So if it's okay, I'm going to unmute Whitney, who had a couple of questions to ask. Whitney, can you unmute yourself, please? There you go.
Hola,
Hi,
Lolita.
hello.
Hello, nice to see you again. I just wanted to ask, what do you think people will find most interesting in your new book that maybe you've not shared in some of your previous chats or with the community before?
Most interesting. Well, a lot of people who know me in the Pilates world are not aware of my dance background, which is really quite intensive, from being a dance student to being a director of a ballet company and choreographer and so on. And from teaching Pilates to one of the things that I am still surprised at, there was one of my disciples said to me, and you know, disciples is what you are called once you have graduated from my PMMP. And she said, we need a manual. I said, you need a manual? Why you need a manual? She said, well, we want to have a way of training other people in your method. I said, well, look about, there's Brent Anderson, there's Rayla Sagowitz, there's Nora St. John. There are tons of my friends that have manuals. I don't do computer. And I think you can all swear to that. So I don't do computer. I don't write a typewriter. I never did, you know. So how can I do a manual? How can I work a book or anything? So they said, well, we'll do it, or we'll try it. Let's try it. And we did. I talked to somebody. She put it on the computer and she took it home, cleaned it up, and sent it back to me. And then I gave it the final. But of course, this is a difficult road for a manual, which I was doing a manual for Mant, Reformer, for Cadillac, for a chair, and spine correctors, and all of that. So I did. And then once it was finished, I was quite pleased with it. And I said, yes, it's good. And so I had jumped that hurdle. And then the next hurdle was, you know, putting all these segments together, because it's really not a Pilates book. It is a memoir. But my life has evolved along all these roads, different paths, and they all contributed to each other. And so I guess that then I went through the same grueling experience when I decided, well, I'm going to write a book. And it was one of those decisions you make, like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And my husband, who's a writer, said, sure you are. I was traveling a lot. And Lillian, my administrator and my assistant, she was traveling with me. And when I'm into traveling, I'm into traveling. I'm into working with you, and you know, forget the book, forget everything.
It's a live interview with Lolita San Miguel, and she's the only one with Mary Bowen that actually are Pilates instructors. They learn directly from Joseph Pilates.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, and there's only two, they're still alive.
1 second. All of a sudden, my screen went dark and it has a name, Christina Mancin. But I was talking to Whitney. Do I continue speaking?
I believe she accidentally became unmuted. It sounds
Okay.
like she's muted now.
Wow.
Okay. So Whitney, that was another saga, and it took me like 3 years because I didn't have the time. And when you're writing a book, you really should sit down and write your book. You cannot take 3 years, right? because every time I had to start from scratch. You know, I have to get your mind into that. But at the same time, I wasn't stopping anything else that was on my calendar. So it was a challenge to get it done that way. And of course, everything I said had to go through this process of being put on a computer and then being okayed. And number one, just to understand my handwriting is a feat. So they had to first read it, and but I did it. Oh, but then there's another story. Yeah. Then came COVID, right? March 11th, we all knew that this was a serious thing in the States. And Amber and Danielle, Amber was here at the time, and they came to my house and they sat me down and they said, you know, the studio has to close and we can't, there's all these serious lockdowns and things we cannot do, and we got to stay home. So what are we going to do? They know me well enough to know. Oh, and I had 14 trips planned for that year. I was going to be all over the place. So that was the end of them, and which of course made my husband very happy. and so I said, you know, Ivy, what do you want from me? I don't know how to computer. I don't own a computer. I don't own an iPad. I know nothing about these things. So they said, all right, you will take care of that. Okay. So a week later, we started. Is that crazy? A week later, we started on a Zoom. Lolita Pilates goes online. And they did handle it. They were new at it too. We did fight a lot and suffer a lot. But we finally got our act together, and it's been running now for like a year and 3 months, I think, and it's very successful. So then they said, look, with this COVID, it looks like it's going to extend itself longer. So we have to keep this Lolita Pilates on Zoom and this work virtually. We have to keep it going till we see how much longer. So we kept it going, and obviously no one ever expected that this COVID would be as harmful and as dangerous and we never knew what a real pandemic was. You know, we knew that 1918, Joe had lived through a pandemic, and that it was very serious, but we never knew. We had never had that experience. And then we kept saying, well, by September, it should be over. And no, our president was not helping one bit. He was the first one to say, oh, this is just going to disappear. Hello, disappear? And then they started to say, listen, we started a legacy, and how long are we going to keep these people waiting? And I myself had a Pilates Master Mentor program going on. How long can you just keep them waiting? And at the same time, everybody was home. So it was a perfect opportunity to have them without the worry of schedule and work and children and all that, have them available to keep going. So we did. So now we have the Pilates Master Mentor program on virtual. And we also have the legacy. The teachers have continued to teach it virtually. Some of the studios have opened, not all, but some have. And then their clients that got used and prefer the virtual have kept it, and others have returned to the studio, which is beautiful because all we've done there is extend our clientele, right? So if we have both in person and both at home, you don't have to worry about a babysitter or anything like that. So that then has been going on, and I think we're going to be staying that way. I think the future for us is going to be both in person and virtual, both for legacy and PMMP. I'm almost finished doing PMMP, but I know I will be convinced to do maybe 1 or 2 a year.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Lolita, we have a few more questions if you are happy to answer a couple more. We've got a question from Danny in the group who'd like to ask you a fun question. Can you spotlight Danny, Sarah? There we go. Go for it, Danny. You're
Hi,
unmuted.
Lolita. I'd love to know a bit about you personally, Lolita. So do you have a favorite food, a guilty pleasure, something you really, really love to eat?
Soul food.
Soul food.
Yes, yes.
Tell me more.
Okay. Where are you from, Christy?
I live very close to Clare in Leeds.
Lee? And your ethnic background?
Well, I'm actually just British.
Okay. So that is your soul food. Do you consider British food your soul food?
Probably not. No.
Okay. So I love my rice and beans.
Fabulous.
I love going to Puerto Rico, and I hit the most typical middle class and lower restaurant because they cook the best.
Best food, yes.
And I always gain weight there because first of all, I love the bread. And so there's places where you go and you get the nice Puerto Rican bread, which is still warm. And with butter, it's just yummy. So I am an eater. I eat a lot. And I also like to drink. I like wine, and I like champagne, and I like my martini. And yes, I'm not a vegetarian. I eat vegetables, but I'm not a vegetarian. And I try to eat a balanced diet. We love fish. So like twice a week, we'll eat fish. And twice a week, we'll probably have chicken. And once a week, we'll have red meat. So I eat everything.
Fabulous.
Yes. And
thank you, Danny. That was a fun question. Thank you. We have another question from Rachel in the group. Rachel, if you unmute yourself, we can spotlight you and you can ask your question.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, Lolita.
Hi,
how are you doing? I absolutely loved your book. I read it so fast. It was wonderful. And it was lovely because I've got to know you so well over the last year. It was like you were just reading it to me because I know your voice, so it was great. So I want to hear about these several engagements you talked about. You mentioned you were engaged several times, but obviously they never led to marriage. Did you keep the rings, Lolita?
No, I didn't need the rings. I remember one that had a lovely pearl, and I remember one that had a diamond, but no, why keep something that is really no longer meaningful to you? And somehow I think when I received them, I didn't take them that seriously as probably they did. I never felt engaged. before I knew, it was a year later after we started talking to each other and we got married. So we never went through that engagement stage, neither with Iram, my second husband. I didn't go through the engagement stage. So no, I don't have any jewelry to turn in.
Great question, Rachel. Thank you so much. We know, because, well, Sarah and I know you well, and we know that you have many stories, and I'm sure it was quite a challenge to curate it all down into the book, the finished product. I wonder if there was any stories that were missed out, or components that were missed out that you'd like to share with us today.
Well, I think truly, I thought carefully. Yes, I guess there are. And if I remember, every once in a while, Iram will say to me, "You should have put that in the book." Couldn't put everything in the book. So, but
That was one of my questions for you, Lolita, was what does Hiram think about your book?
Iram was very proud when we received a box from Amazon, and I was teaching at the time, and he opened the box, and there were because in order for me to autograph it, I have to buy it from Amazon, and then I autograph it. And there were 200 books. And he picked it up, and of course we knew what the cover was going to look like and the whole thing, but to see it finally done, he said, "Look at that, look at that." And when I finished the class, he had a glass of champagne waiting for me to celebrate. And I said to him, "Now I am a published author."
That's wonderful. We wondered if there was anything you miss now that you've done it and it's out there and we're all reading it and enjoying it. Is there anything you miss about the writing process, or are you just glad it's done?
I'm glad it's done. And if you have questions of your curiosities, there are probably things that I missed. So I'm curious to hear them. You know, like, what about this or what about that? I think I did speak about, I love food. And of course, soul food is ingrained in the, in the pores. And my mother was a wonderful cook. And so I learned, I never cooked before I got married, but I learned to cook just by sitting talking to her while she was cooking. I didn't think I was really trying to memorize it, but I guess just looking at the cooking process. Did Christina Mansin have anything to say to us? Because she appeared there.
I think I'm not sure if she's still here or not. We did have another fabulous question. I want to know the answer to this too. Whitney's asking if you have any advice for aging women and how Pilates can make a difference in their intimate life.
Intimate life, okay. All right. Practice the Kegel on your husband. Yes. Isometric contraction on your husband. He will want you to do Pilates for the rest of your life.
That answers your question. Thank you so much. Lolita. And Sarah, I think, has a question.
So on that note, maybe our last two questions can come from our children. Claire, I know my son and Claire's son, they both have questions. I'm not sure if they will be willing to come on, but Tristan, would you like to come and ask Lolita your question?
Change her mind.
Is he coming?
Oh,
So, oh, there he is.
One moment for consult, and then we'll be.
oh, what a face.
So our children know Lolita really well, and last weekend Lolita spoke at a conference, and we watched Lolita whilst we were having dinner together as a family, and my boys were asking me questions and talking to Lolita as if she was with us for dinner. It was hilarious and fantastic. And so then they had some questions, but we're gonna have Sarah's young man ask a question first.
Okay. Are you gonna make your book into audiobook? Because I really like those.
Am I going to make my book into?
Are you gonna make an audiobook out of the book?
Are you going to make an audiobook out of your book?
Audiobook. I've been thinking about it. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
You do? Okay, well, if you think so, must be. So I'm going to really work on that seriously. Thank you. I'm very flattered that you would like. Yes, that it was a very good correction, Mommy. Thank you. You want to be beautiful like your mother.
Isn't he handsome? Look at that t-shirt, very cool.
Yeah.
Whitney wants to know if you'll make a movie of your life. Oh, that would be a great movie.
Oh, well, I wish somebody would suggest it and run with it.
So much fun. And Ewan is not here to ask you his question, but he wanted to ask you if you had fun writing, because he's just turned 8 and it's all about fun. So
Oh, yes.
I hope it was fun.
Yes. Don't ever do anything that's not fun.
I shall tell him that.
I'm with him on that. You gotta have fun doing it. But I want to tell you, you reminded me of something that I want to tell you. One of the things about Joe that was interesting, because Joe felt that everything was based basically on sex, and his technique was sex and this and that. Are the children around? And he never explained how, why, where, how. Just, yes, the positions make you very limber and coordinated and so on, but he never mentioned what. But one thing he would say, not too often, because he never explained an isometric contraction or a Kegel, anything like that. But very often, when you were up on a bridge, he would come by and smack you with the back of his hand. And you, of course, would react by contracting. Then he would look at you and he would say, "That's good for sex." And that was what we were taught about. But I know with John Steele, he had long conversations, of course, two males together. When he first said it, I said, "What's he talking about?" And then I got it. So there's one that's not in the book.
That's fun. We're getting some insight. Okay, Sarah.
So some sex education there from Joseph Pilates.
A
some-
good clap across the butt.
we did have a question in the group about if there was a movie of your life, who would you want to play you? Excuse me.
Oh my God, it'd have to be several people because it would have to be young, middle-aged, and old. I don't know.
There's one to think about, and then we can start investigating. Fantastic. Well, we have no more questions in the group, and I don't think we have any other questions, do we, Sarah?
I don't
Please apologize to the ones who couldn't stay. I am so sorry it took us all that time to get our act together and get you on, but I'm glad we finally did. I had really given up. And
Well,
I thank you for being patient and persevering.
Well, thank you, Lolita, for being always so generous with your time. That's something that I know from now having known you for a number of years and having studied with you, is that you are such a generous person and have such a wealth of knowledge and joy to share with us. So I'm glad that
Thank
our
you.
members are able to hear from you, and they'll have another opportunity as well. So I want to remind everyone.
Yes, and I congratulate you. You know how proud you should be that there's such a thing as a Pilates book club. He'd never thought of this. Well, I don't think he had owned very many books, but I don't think he was a reader, no. But that you have this club to really enhance. This is your way of contributing to the method, and that everybody should be aware of it and aware of the details. Because as you know, a lot of people do not know who the Pilates method. Yeah, it's a Pilates method. It probably was discovered by Pontius Pilate.
Well, thank you, Lolita. I mean, I remember Sarah and I having the conversation together outside of the studio one lunch break while we were with you in Florida. So it feels like it's your book club too.
I am. And I want to bring you other guests because I want to bring you John Steele and also Eva Rankin, and I will speak to, and Kathy Baker-Strack. She wrote the book on Romana, so that you have really the whole library. We need to enhance that library. And I'm now one of your members, and I'm going to work with you to really enhance that library.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, that's wonderful. Sarah, do you want to do a photograph?
Yes, that is what we would like to finish with. I'm going to remove our spotlight so we can have everyone on screen. Please put yourselves on the screen. We'll have to do a couple of photos because we have two screens full on my computer screen. And if you have your book, you could grab it,
yes,
and lift it up. Although I'll be, let's see, moving my fingers around here. I think I can multitask. So I'll give us a 1, 2, 3, and then be ready with your smiles. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Now I'm going to see, let's see if I escape here. Go to my second screen, make us large.
You're so good at these things, Sarah.
Thank you for the confidence. I'm not sure that I am as confident, but I can count to 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is so much fun. We're so blessed to have had Lolita here with us, and then we'll have her again. We'll be joining actually Lolita online. We'll be joining her members as well in June, on June 26th. So make sure you're on the email list, make sure you're on our Facebook page, and we'll be sending out the Zoom details for that a little bit later on. And it's going to be a very fun and exclusive event with some surprise special guests. You're not allowed to ask Lolita who they will be, but we will have a good time. All right. So
in your diary, the 26th of June. If you'd like to unmute yourselves and have a little clap and cheer for Lolita, that would be lovely.
Woo! Enchanting.
all right, thank you guys. We will see you online. We'll see you in our Facebook group, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. So Lolita, Amber, and Danielle, you can hang on.
Bye, Claudia. Good to see you.
Nice to see other faces there too. Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Lolita,
Thank you, Amber. Thank
gracias,
you, Danny. I'm
Lolita.
sorry you had to suffer so much. at the
Gracias,
beginning.
Lolita. Tú eres una inspiración para nosotros.
Gracias, mi amor.
Ya, me encantas. Chao.
Chao.
Hey, Lolita, thank you so much. Our book club members will be just so thrilled and so happy.